Hello, I'm Bob Tribe, and welcome to another edition of Valley to Vietnam. Today our guest is David Drennan, and Dave served with the 1st Cav and the 173rd Airborne Brigade, the 173rd Airborne Brigade. So, David, you were born in Berkeley, 1947, and you folks, moved here. You were a twin. And you moved here with your brother Dennis and mother and father when you were approximately 2 years old.
A year and a half, yeah.
Yeah. Your brother said 2. You said year and a half, so
yeah.
We'll just round it up. And initially, I discovered that both your mother and father were in the service in World War II.
That's correct, yes. My father in Europe, my mother in the Pacific.
And she was a nurse?
She was a nurse.
And your father was an engineering officer?
Right. He basically built what were called Bailey bridges.
Oh, sure.
And that's with the big inflatable boats.
Right.
To move tanks and trucks and people across.
I know that system well because my father was an engineer officer with 82nd Airborne and ended up being wounded 3 times, and we were lucky to get him back. So initially you moved into veterans housing, as I understand, down by O'Neill Park.
Yeah, downtown here.
Right. And then 1950 you moved to Arden Park.
Correct. My father built the house while we were living downtown, and he was working for the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
And then he built that whole thing, and that was the first house in that area. We could run from that house to the American River with nothing but weeds and jackrabbits in the way.
Wow. Yeah, for those who don't know it, Arden Park is bounded by Arden Way and Fair Oaks, Eastern Avenue and Watt Avenue. So it's a very, very large area. And eventually there were a lot of people who lived there.
Solid, packed.
And just a great area. I remember I used to come over there and play football at Cresta Park. And,
so did I.
And there was a lot of baseball and football at both Arden Park, the real park within Arden Park, and Cresta Park. So it was a great neighborhood.
Yeah. They played the 9-year-old kids at Cresta Park in Little League.
Oh, okay.
Okay, which I participated in for 2 years. I didn't flunk the first time, but I took the place of neighbors across the street who were on vacation. So they needed people to come in and fill in for them. So my twin brother and I got invited to go over and do that. Of course, my father was the president of Little League at the time, so Arden Little League. So.
And I understand also your dad plays some semi-pro baseball.
There's some question about that.
Really?
Yes.
Well, one of you, either you or your brother, listed that. So anyway,
He did.
Okay. That Dennis, that other brother.
That's
the evil twin. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
You went to schools there.
We started off at Arden School in kindergarten, then we went to Mariemont for 1st through 6th, and then back to Arden School for 7th and 8th.
Okay.
And then on to El Camino.
El Camino. And so let's talk about some of the things you did there. Both of you and your brother, who we're going to interview later, mentioned that it was just a great area to grow up in, and that you were close to the American River, which became the playground for all of us. You know, one of you mentioned that it was like a Mark Twain kind of story, almost, the way you grew up in kind of this Huckleberry Finn kind of existence. I know we were down there doing things like swimming and tubing and having BB gun fights and all that sort of thing. So what sort of things did you guys do down there?
I mostly just fished.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you still a fisherman?
Oh, yeah. I started tying flies when I was 12, and I still tie. I got to get busy and start tying this week. I have a new spay rod coming about Friday or Saturday. So.
You know, I didn't fish myself, but my grandson, who we helped raise, he loves to fish, and he started tying his own flies at an early age too.
Yeah, good.
So I'd always hook him up with, some friend, including some of my old OCS friends who would take him fishing. So you'd fish mainly for what? Anything?
Pretty much anything, but a lot of crappie, bluegill down there, but they were steelhead in the wintertime.
Oh, sure.
And it was steelhead that I was really interested in.
Yeah.
It wasn't until 2000, maybe it was 1999, I caught my first real steelhead on the Skagit River in Washington State.
Oh, nice.
With one of the most famous guides in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have a friend who, for years, he stopped doing it now, because he's actually older than me, which is pretty darn old. But he used to go up to Alaska every summer and fish there and bring back 600 pounds of salmon or something, all frozen. So, did you fish for salmon also? Or?
We did. There was a guy associated with us in Little League named Jim Bagel, who had a boat, and we trolled from Watt Avenue down to what we used to call Crowd Out Pool, which is right there adjacent to Sacramento State.
Okay.
And we go back and forth trolling big mep spinners, and I did hook one in there one time.
Oh, nice.
Denny did hook a steelhead down there behind Real Americana High School, where my sister went to high school.
Sure.
And but he didn't land it.
All right.
He got a little too over anxious and didn't land
That
it.
can happen. That happens.
I have hooked a 17-pound steelhead in the American River.
Wow.
Yeah, on a fly.
Now, Denny mentioned that you both had paper routes.
Yes.
Was that the Union or the Bee?
Actually, it was the Union, but I started with the Chronicle.
Oh,
San
really?
Francisco Chronicle, yeah. And that was the first one. The guy who had the route decided to just give it up because he'd taken it from a route of about 80-some people and managed to take it all the way up to 40 people. So, he was kind of messing up, so we were kind of getting rid of him. But, so I built it back up, and then they split it in two, and which I didn't appreciate, do all that work, and then have my income cut in half. So,
we did anything that we could raise money. I cut other people's lawns.
Yeah.
I'd do some babysitting, even though I was probably too young to babysit. And I had both. I had a Sunday Sacramento Union route and a daily Sacramento Bee route.
Yeah.
So, but
they'd let you do both.
They were both morning papers, if I remembered. So
Bee was the afternoon paper.
Oh no, that's right. The Bee was the afternoon paper, and now it's a morning paper. I keep screwing that
the
up.
Union's not in existence anymore.
No, that's true. But it was the Sunday paper was a great big fat heavy thing, and
try the Chronicle sometime.
you had to get up super early to deliver that
And make two routes.
Oh yeah, and not a lot of people took the Union, so it was real expansive route. Whereas the Bee, I had like 4 streets that were contiguous, and it was much easier to deliver. Yeah.
Chronicle was all over the place.
I'll bet.
Yeah, all over the place.
So did you hang out at some of those places that all these guys talked about, like the bowling alleys?
No.
The Hofbräu?
The Hofbräu I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tower Records?
Not Tower Records. I actually didn't buy my first album until I got out of the Army and was at American River.
Oh, gosh.
And I hate to say who that album was. It was Bill Cosby.
Oh, gosh. Oh, yeah. I used to go up to Tahoe and see him all the time.
Oh, yeah?
Back in those days after I got out of the Army.
But
were you the one that said that you went to see the Beach Boys at Memorial Auditorium?
No, that was Denny.
Okay.
But I saw Peter, Paul, and Mary. I saw Linda Ronstadt there.
Oh, nice.
And there was somebody else. I guess it was Jimi Hendrix, but he was at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
And did you know that Jimi Hendrix actually served in the Army?
I know. He was in the 101st.
101st, yeah. And he was trying to get out. He was going to go tell his commanding officer that he was gay. And he had to go on a jump first, and he broke his ankle, so they gave him a medical discharge.
Oh, gosh. I didn't know that detail. I just knew he was in the 101st. But,
would you believe I got all that off of the fly fishing website?
Really? I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I guess your brother said that he saw the Beach Boys live album being recorded at Memorial Auditorium.
I think so, yeah.
My brother saw those guys every time they came to Sacramento. It was kind of funny because there was a fellow in between us in the class of 62, Fred Vale, who became a promoter, and now he's big time in Nashville. But he used to pick up the Beach Boys boys in his mom's station wagon at the old airport, and they got paid $250 that they split amongst them and would play the Memorial Auditorium. So they probably are a lot more expensive now. So there was a drive-in restaurant not far from you on Arden Way called Harold's. Did you ever go there? It was like a Harvey's, or was it? No, it was Harold's, and it was like a early McDonald's, only it was just a single place. And I just wondered. We used to go there all the time. It was right across from, let's see, El Nido Way, I guess, just right by Arden School. So it probably drew in a lot of Arden kids.
I don't remember it.
Okay. I don't think it lasted that long. I was just curious. So you started at American River once you
got out of the Army, yeah.
Oh, I thought you started before. Okay, that was
Signed up for it once, but that was it.
Yeah.
And decided to stay with forestry for the summer.
So that's, I guess that was my next question. What you did in between the time you joined the Army and got out of high school. So that was, what, 9 months or so? Or?
Yeah, that was CDF. Started there in, I think, end of May or early June. Worked all the way through to mid-October. And then got laid off within the fire season. And then just hung around the house until I could get a job working for Sears for Christmas.
Okay.
So I did that.
At Arden Fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you decided to join, not get drafted, which you probably would have if you just weren't going to school.
Right.
But you joined and went in what, January of '66?
Yes.
Okay.
January 13th, 66, yeah.
So where did you go to basic training?
Fort Ord.
All right. Was that when they were having all the problems with, what was that, respiratory illness that everybody was getting?
Yeah, it was mononucleosis they had.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe that was it, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they had to keep all the different companies separated.
Right.
Wouldn't let them mingle because they didn't want to pass it. I don't remember anybody getting it.
Yeah.
But I mean, nobody in my company got it, and we just weren't exposed to the other people. So.
Getting basic training in Monterey is like very few other places in California. It certainly isn't like the Central Valley. It's cold and foggy a lot, and
it was
lots of sand dunes to run people up.
Yeah, that can wear you out too.
So you were trained with an M14 probably at that time. I know.
Right.
I went in April of '66, and we had M14s. But so, what was your feelings about basic training? I mean, how'd that go for you?
Well, two things. One, the M14 that you brought up. Of course, we had to qualify with it.
Right.
And I'd start shooting my M14, and the rear sight would start moving up this way. So pretty soon I'm going over that bunker on the other side of the hill, and it's landing out in the Pacific Ocean somewhere.
Shooting sailors on fishing boats or something.
Or seals, or
there you go.
Russian subs.
So can they fix that? I mean, is it just a screw or something, or what?
Well, there's a piece of shim stock that can go in there, but that only comes in so many thicknesses, and they couldn't find the right one. So they never could fix it, so they would let me readjust after 10 rounds.
Yeah.
And of course, they had to slow everything down. But I didn't pass the marksmanship shooting it the first time because of this problem, and they wouldn't let me adjust. So I had to come back out on a Saturday and shoot, and then I passed.
With another weapon? Or?
No, with that same weapon.
Yeah, once you're assigned a weapon, that's your weapon.
That's
right?
it, yeah. You're just married to it, yeah.
Oh, geez. So next you're going to go to advanced infantry training.
Right. Got a few days off. Actually, at the end of basic training, we're given a basic test, and people that score between 450 and 500 get a special little prize, lollipop or something. I don't know what it was, but I scored better than 450, so that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So obviously I did get through the marksmanship part of it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And where did you go to AIT?
Went to AIT at Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Oh, wow. So they sent you all the way across the country.
All the way across the country. And it was difficult to get a flight in there because it's the same time that the Masters golf tournament was starting.
Yeah.
And so that made it kind of tough.
And that was the Masters in 67, 6.
6, yes.
Yeah. I saw the Masters there in 67.
Uh-huh.
So, but anyway, so what was AIT like?
AIT was pretty interesting. I do relate one thing in there that happened to me when we were out on a kind of a field problem where I was being trained in mortars,
Right.
11C.
That's tricky stuff.
Yeah, and we get through ambushing this platoon of 11B soldiers, and one of them comes by, points his M14 at me with a blank adapter in the muzzle and a blank round in the chamber and shoots me in the face.
They should have kicked that guy out of the army.
I
right
think
there.
they did.
Oh, that's good. You
Yeah,
always
I
see.
didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
Because of a different platoon, but yeah, that was a real problem.
Yeah.
But anyway,
You see a few guys, I saw that in basic, where a few guys would come in and they thought they were really tough guys. And, they soon proved they weren't so tough.
Right.
And got rid of them, which is a good idea. I guess that's part of the process, though.
yeah.
Get the psychos out of there.
Yeah. This was not the first time or last time that this sort of thing would happen to me.
Yeah, well,
And
they meet all kinds.
Yeah. So, but anyway, but it was fun to learn to shoot them. The one problem I had was again with was traversing mechanism on the mortar with bipod, because you have to take a time and accuracy test.
Right.
You're not firing rounds, you're just doing it for time, and make sure that you've set the sight right because it's all over the place. And the traversing mechanism didn't work properly, so you'd sit there and crank this damn thing until it's supposed to be where it's supposed to, and it's not moving, and then suddenly, boom, drops over. If you're in combat and you're having to put up with that, you just take that thing out, pack it with C4, and send it, in small pieces everywhere.
That's a good way to get your own troops killed, is have a mechanism that doesn't work like that.
That's right. Yeah.
So you're trained as a mortarman, but and you figure that's probably where you're going to get assigned. But next you went to jump school, I guess.
Correct. Yes, at Fort Benning, Georgia.
Yeah.
And there was a whole lot of PT. First week is mostly physical training, and then the next week is tower week.
Right.
And you're jumping out of a 30-foot tower and running along. They call it zip line now.
Yeah.
I don't know what we called it then, but then you have to run down there and grab a hold of the device that takes the future paratrooper.
Yeah.
And run it all the way back, and do that a bunch of times, and that's like 200-yard wind sprints,
You know what? I went to jump school right after officer candidate school, and so what all the NCOs would do is they'd make all of us officers the dragline guys, just because they could.
Yeah.
And get after us for not doing it fast enough. Sir, you were a little slow there. I want you to drop, and you better do 11 push-ups and not just 10, of course. But that was, and ours was a week shorter because OCS was 6 months of just really, pretty drastic stuff, and so they figured we were in shape and we didn't have to do any PT. So, but then we had the 250-foot tower.
Yeah. I never got to go out of that. They ran out of time.
That was the easiest thing there.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
that was just a ride.
Exactly. Into a plowed field and.
And then the jump week is always a kick in the pants. But the first 2 days we couldn't jump because it was too windy.
Right.
And they finally said, we got to get these guys out of an airplane, so if it's right on the edge, boot them out.
That happened because a bunch of 101st guys jumped when it was too windy, and some of them were killed because they were just dragged and run into trees. So that was the whole reason for that.
But I can tell you some other stories about that too. I jumped, but too much wind. When my first jump, I'm coming in pretty good clip like this, And so you're supposed to pull your static lines down this way, not static lines, but risers down, and that drops parachute this way, slows your lateral ascent and descent, and mine turns around and goes zoop, turns into a sail. I bounced my ass off that ground.
You know, I did the same thing about my fourth jump.
Yeah.
They're down there, the NCOs with bullhorns, you know, giving direction and stuff, and they're yelling, "You're pulling the wrong slip, you're pulling the wrong..." I said, "Some idiot is pulling the wrong slip." Well, it was me.
Yeah.
And so I'm just doubling my speed, and geez, I hit so hard. I mean, I just thought, okay, well, that's a lesson learned.
Yeah. But anyway, I got a pretty good thumping from that, and one of the drop zone safety NCOs comes over and says, "You all right?" Because he saw me bounce pretty good, and he, I said, "I'm fine." I wasn't, but I'm gonna be fine. There's no way I'm getting out of there. But in terms of parachuting, when I was in Alaska, we made some jumps. I had a sprained ankle from playing basketball, so I didn't get to make that. It was the only night jump I would have been able to make, but it was over a place called DZ Buffalo. I think my twin brother jumped in there when he came up to Fort, Greeley for mountain training.
Oh, okay.
And I went down and saw him while he was there. But the ground safety officer took the wind reading from inside a 3/4 ton truck in the cab with the windows closed, right? How much wind is that? And so a lot of guys, there was a lot of wind, and there were buffalo.
Oh my gosh,
So we had a guy in the company that got trampled and broke his hips,
oh jeez.
That's really lousy.
Well, I had a colonel who came out to me one time, and I was the drop zone safety officer, and I'm holding this little wind gauge up like this, and he says, "How come you don't have the panels out?" And I said, "Well, sir, the wind's blowing at about 18 knots, and you weren't supposed to go in over 15. He puts his thumb over the top of the thing and says, "There's no wind out here, Lieutenant, jump up." Okay,
Yeah.
it's on you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we
Yeah.
have similar experiences there.
Yeah.
So once you finish jump school, then you get some leave maybe?
I get 2 weeks more of KP.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and then 30 days leave, and I go down to Oakland, and they pack us up and send us over to Vietnam. And as we're making an approach into Tonsillet Air Base, planes kind of banking this way, and there's another guy here from Sacramento. He died in '76 from cancer from Agent Orange. Got sprayed on his second tour with the 101st, and his name's Rick Norblum. And anyway, our plane is banking, and he looks out the window, and because the plane starts doing that, and we hear this crump, 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 crump. And he says, "Dave, come over, look at this." So I go across there and I look out the window, and it's B-52s hitting Parrot's Peak.
Oh,
Yeah, and see all the guys. We were high enough we could see it all the way through. Big trees flying out of there. Everything was making a real mess out of it.
Oh,
So that was my introduction to Vietnam.
wow. Well,
Yeah.
that's a good opening. And so you're initially sent to B Company, 1st Battalion, 12th Cav Regiment, 1st Cav Division.
Right,
And that's September of '66.
right.
Okay. So what was that 8-month tour like?
That 8-month tour was the first. Did you get a chance to read that other
I
thing,
did.
my stressor?
I did.
So we get finally packed up and equipped and everything, and I guess the very first night we were there, the sirens went off and they said they were going to mortar us. So get in the bunkers. So we all go sit in the bunkers and we hear bang. That was it. One mortar round goes off. Then we get out of there and go off about our business, and we then board was either Chinook helicopters or Caribous. I don't remember which. I think it was Chinooks. And we fly into LZ English or LZ 2-bit, which is right on Highway 1. Okay. On K is where the first Cav base camp was.
Okay.
That's on Highway 19 between Quin Yon and Pleiku.
That's like in 3 Corps, right?
I never paid
I
any
think so.
attention to any of that
I
stuff.
think it's just north of Saigon.
More than just a little north.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Is that where all the tunnels were?
Choo Chi or something
Chi-Chi,
like
you're
that
right.
was,
Sorry,
yeah,
my bad.
yeah. But anyway, so we get up there and you know, we're setting up our positions and checking our weapons and finding out they don't work, and M16, you know. And I had 3 over there. One worked, but it had one of the tines was bent down in the path of the bullet as it exited the muzzle in 173rd. Sends the rounds low and to the right.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so I finally figured out what it was, and I could zero the weapon, and it would work fine then.
Jeez.
But that was, yeah, it was something else that was really causing most of the
So,
problem.
given that you had 4 of those, you didn't think much of the M16?
Anything that doesn't work today, I still call an M16.
Ah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
whether it's people or whether it's a shovel. Yeah,
there were a lot of complaints
there were.
about that weapon.
Yeah,
So,
and rightly so.
Yeah.
That weapon killed a lot of GIs.
so once you get there, though, you're not acting as a mortarman. You're a 1-1B, an infantryman.
Yeah, I'm a 1-1B. One of the guys that I went through mortar school with, though, the very first day we were there, he was dropping a mortar round down the tube, and he was standing right in front of the muzzle.
Oh my God.
I don't know if it would have blown him up right there, because it has to travel a certain ways before that
Right.
safety pin comes out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had to square him away real quick. And as far as I know, he made it out of the country okay.
So, were you in many firefights in this 8 months?
The very first patrol we went out on, it was I think 2 platoons plus headquarters platoon, and we're running around on the east side of Highway 1, and there was a big valley there with some rice growing and just one little hooch. So we went over around this little hooch to check it out, see what it was about, and there was a grandma. She's blind. She's kind of tapping her way around using her front foot, her feet as a, you know, like a cane, like tip cane. And so she wouldn't fall into the rice or, you know, maybe find a snake. And then there was another woman with a younger woman, mid-20s, with a baby. And then there was a male, Vietnamese male of military age, and they start questioning him. They take him off by him, he's sitting down, and we have a Vietnamese interpreter with us. And so they're questioning him, and it's, well, we're not getting the answers we want to hear from this guy. So they pick him up and they put him in cuffs, and they bring in a chopper to take him out of there. And that Vietnamese mother, she just starts screaming bloody murder.
Was that her husband?
I guess it was her husband.
Mm-hmm.
She just picks her baby up, starts playing batter up with a palm tree.
Oh my God.
Smacked that baby against the tree twice before we could stop her and kill the baby. The first thing in my mind is, we're here to help these people out? What?
Yeah,
You know,
that's horrible.
it is. And then we're, you know, as we're getting done with that patrol and we're going back across Highway 1, back into LZ English, or whatever one we were on, and we see a guy crossing the road, and he's burnt from one end to the other. And the way he's walking across there is he's using his shoulders to go like this. His arms are welded to his body, and his legs are welded together. And so he's walking with his shoulders and his hips. And he's trying to get into the water. And we were thinking about, you know, just shoot this guy, put him out of his misery. Somebody pointed the gun at him, and he just said, no, 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 no. He didn't want to die, so we got a medevac out there and took him to the rear. You know, took him to medical hospital.
These are the kind of things you don't expect to see as a teenager, you know, which you
You
were.
don't, but if you give yourself the right mindset before you go, and you say, I'm going to see crap I really don't want to see, that's just part of war. And I signed up for this. So I got nobody to blame but myself.
Yeah.
But to see a woman do that, you know, that's not what you expect.
And something you'll never forget.
And something I certainly have not forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, were you wounded?
I was never wounded, came close.
You were lucky. Reading this thing of everything you were involved in, it's amazing that you were not wounded.
Yeah, but I'm not, you know, maybe they were using the same M14 I had in basic.
And I always thought it was kind of ironic that, you know, enlisted guys would serve 12 months in the field.
Yeah.
Well, whereas officers would serve 6 months and then, you know, be in a kind of a rare area for the next 6 months or so, like your brother did.
Yeah.
But when you give the ratio of like one lieutenant for 25 to 30, you know, enlisted guys, I mean, I guess that's the reason they do it. And they're always looking, the Viet Cong, the NVA are always looking for the guy giving the hand signals or
hand signals
next to the
and a radio
RTO.
antenna coming out of his backpack.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm sure there was a little bit of resentment by the troops over that. But,
you know, if they really stopped and thought about it for a second, they could understand it, you know. But they also know that the officers need more cross-training than a guy who's a PFC or a Spec 4.
Right.
He just needs to know how to clean his weapon, aim it, and pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And I think I've read somewhere where only a third of the people who are actually in combat ever fire a round in anger.
Wow.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. And
probably depends on where you're located.
yeah, and some of the guys never see combat.
Right.
They're out trooping around, you know, every place we go, they just never run across the target.
And then there's those folks like the 101st on Hamburger Hill, or the people around Dak To, or Loch Ninh that got overrun. The Special Forces camp got run over there. So at some point, you're shifted to the 173rd.
Right.
So, and was it unusual just to not to stay with your original outfit?
No, what happened there was the 173rd had the entire 4th Battalion rotate back at the same time.
Oh.
What was left of it.
Okay.
But it was a lot of people. So they brought anybody who was airborne qualified from the Cav. We had some guys from the 1st Division, 25th Infantry Division, brought in and to replace them.
Okay.
So, you know, they could fill out the ranks and make a viable unit out of it.
Did you feel any safer being with an airborne unit versus a leg infantry unit? Or?
No.
Okay.
And the reason was the 1st Air Cav had so much supporting artillery. We had a battery of 105s or 155 for every infantry company in the country.
Wow.
in the Cav.
That's good coverage.
Plus, they had the best thing of all was ARA, aerial rocket artillery. Slicks, and the Huey helicopters.
Sure.
Boxes, 48 rockets, 2.75-inch rockets on each side, or twin miniguns. And those things could really lay it down and accurate.
And the 1st Cav was really the first air mobile division.
Correct, yeah.
And so they made sure that they were well stocked.
Yep, that's
Okay.
true. Yeah, correct.
So in the 173rd, were you doing helicopter insertions too? Or?
We did, but not nearly as many. I mean, 1st Cav, I've got an air medal, so you know, that's 25 air assaults to unsecured LZs.
Right.
And I was never, no helicopter in my company in the Cav was shot down.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and those helicopters are only attached to us. We're not part of an aviation company.
Sure.
We're part of an air mobile company, infantry company.
Did you ever go into any hot LZs?
We did. We did get some sniper fire and some other stuff, but nothing that was overwhelming.
Okay.
And I mean, with the ARA stuff right there.
So you're going to do 4 months approximately with the 173rd Airborne Brigade?
Yeah, June, July, August, September, half of September.
Right.
3.5.
And any particular experiences that you want to talk about in that period?
And with that one, we had Hill 830. And you can buy a book by a guy who was the command sergeant major for the battalion, named Ted Arthurs. It's called Land Without Sun. And it describes the whole battalion from when he got there just before I did to, well, after I left, and including the Tet Offensive of 68,
Right.
Cemetery Hill 830, which I was on, and that was the only brutal knockdown drag out that I was involved with. The whole battalion was on battalion movement. We were walking down this creek bed, and the point element consisted all of basically rookies. Nobody had been in combat yet. They don't know what they're seeing when they see a North Vietnamese soldier. And you know, they hear some laughing and splashing and stuff going on. There's a little what we call a drop pools, where a waterfall goes down into a big pool, and they were in there swimming, taking a bath and stuff. The North Vietnamese were. So they went in there and they just walked up on them and said, "Oh, what's going on here?" And they had covering fires, M60, or not M60s, but they're light machine gun stuff, and started just knocking people down everywhere. So they, you know, our people, and so they backed up a little bit, and then all of their people ran up the hill. Turns out that they were a mortar company, and they started walking mortars right down our line. And so we had 24 people killed.
Wow.
That I had to bag, some of them, and we had another 42 wounded. And one of those people that was killed had a mortar round drop right in front of me. He was a battalion S3 as a major, and it sent a tree right through his body.
Oh my God.
And it's Major Doug Williams, and no, I can't tell his wife about this, but anyway, nobody else would touch him to bag him, so I had to go pull the tree out. I've got his compass, and all this for the next 40 years. I thought that this compass was, this guy was Major Buttons, who was the battalion XO. And then I got involved with the 173rd Airborne Association, and first thing I did was get a list of all the people who had survived and everybody who had been a KIA, and some were had passed since
Right.
the Vietnam War. And I saw the conflict between the names, and so I called the guy that that had sent it to me, who was a company commander from C Company. I was in Dog Company, and he said, "No, that's right." And I said, "All this time I thought that compass belonged to the Battalion XO, and it belongs to this other guy." And
Williams, who was killed.
yeah, Williams was killed, and he says, "Well, his wife's name on there if you want to contact her about it." So I did. I just, swallowed hard and said, "I got to call her and ask her about it." And she says, "Tell me anything you know about Doug, and any pictures that you got. I really appreciate it." I said, "Well, I have his compass." She had no pictures of him while he was in his uniform, or very much of anything about him.
Yeah.
And but she'd never remarried. They had a daughter, and so I told her about that compass, and I said, "If you want it, I'll be glad to send it to you." And so I did. And but to talk to that widow 40 years later, that was, smack in the head.
Gosh. So
Yeah.
you survived 4 months then with the 173rd,
Yeah.
and you
Somehow.
should have come home, but you didn't. You went to Alaska right next.
Yeah, well, I didn't get out of the service.
Okay.
So I still had 16 months left to do.
Oh gosh.
And there were a couple other things too, but that was the hill where two guys tried to shoot me, 8:30, and 5 days later, Battalion FO, who was from the Artillery Battery in support of us,
Forward observer.
forward observer, he's trying to get his tubes to shoot where they're supposed to shoot. So he puts a round in there, and then they do a back calculation to figure out where the guns actually are, because they
Right.
were lost. They were shooting 200 meters south. of where they're supposed to have been hitting. So the first one lands right where it's supposed to. And the second one, he's got a fire at will on a spur off this ridgeline and walking right on the Cambodian border. And you can look right there and see the Cambodian border. And I tell him that he has a free fire round coming into that spur, and we have our point element out there already. And he says, I've taken care of it, don't worry about it. And I said, I've been listening to the radio, you have not taken care of it. And he said, you're a spec 4, turn your ass around and let me do my job. And so we get out there on the spur, and I tell my people to get off the top of that hill. And are we allowed to swear on this thing?
Yeah.
And some of them say, fuck you, Whitey, we're not moving. And so I put on the other side, and then I hear the muzzle report of that 105 round, and it comes screaming in, and bang. It's 2 people dead and 5 more wounded.
Oh, gosh.
And
these are the same people you just talked to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of them was a guy that had shot at me 5 days before.
Oh.
Good riddance.
Yeah.
And
the FO wasn't yet.
no. And I just when we were bagging these guys up and repairing them, and the battalion, one of the medics was treating a guy that got really whacked hard, and the medic had a big piece of shrapnel in his back, went right through his rucksack, hit him in the back. So we're working on him while he's working on this other guy that's a bigger mess.
Jeez.
Yeah. And
that's a true medic.
Huh?
That's a true medic.
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
But you could hear him grunting, as we're trying to pull that damn thing out of him. And yeah, there's some more details. I don't know if you want more details about that or not. But so anyway, yeah, then I got out of there and headed to Alaska, and I actually, flew back in, went out through Oakland, called my father like 3 in the morning. I said, get your ass out of bed, you're on guard. So he finally figured out who it was, and so they got up and got dressed, drove down from Sacramento, picked me up, and took me and another guy, took the other guy to the San Francisco airport, and or maybe Oakland airport.
So you didn't get any leave or anything?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
I got 30 days, but the thing was, instead of giving me orders to Alaska, they said, just go home, we'll send the orders to you. If you don't get the orders, come down and see us about a week before you're supposed to leave. I never got orders, I could have stayed home. I didn't, because I wanted to get to Alaska and fish.
Yeah.
And so got up there, and first thing that happens, we're getting ready to make a jump into Nome on a field operation. And I'm glad to see you got out of bed. And the first thing I do is go to the dentist, because I haven't been to a dentist in a year.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in the dentist chair, and here's a yearling moose and a fox playing out in the snow, chasing each other around. Oh, welcome to Alaska.
Are you at Fort Richardson, or where are you?
I'm at Fort Wainwright in Fairbanks. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was really neat to see. And I've had a pet fox since then for a very short period of time in the CDF in 1971. But I digress. So anyway, we jump into Nome. I came down with malaria the day before we were supposed to jump. I was in terrible shape.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you've got it, you've got that bug's really beating you up, and you can't do anything but just lay on the ground. You're overheating, so you go lay in the snow, and this officer comes by and he says, man, if you're cold, get inside the damn tent. I said, no, I'm burning up. I got malaria. So how do you get that? I got out of Vietnam. And so, but anyway, we went through that, and I had one interesting thing. They gave us a test to shoot down a jet aircraft that's attacking your position. And most guys, they were shooting blanks on it, but the plane had sensors on them. And so they're flying by, and most of the guys could hit it maybe once, twice, 3, 4 times with an M60 machine gun. I hit 74 times. That's what hunting pheasants
They'll
would do
teach
for
those
you.
Soviets to try anything.
Yeah, would have loved it. We actually had, on the last hill I was in the 1st Air Cav, was LZ Geronimo, and they, 105 batteries, 105, they had to go through a air defense drill because they were talking about MiGs attacking American positions in the south.
Wow.
Yeah, that was in early May of 67. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about what you did once you got out of the service.
Okay. I made 24 jumps in Alaska. That was fun.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I got out on January 11th of 69. Immediately signed up for American River College. I actually tried to get an early out and go to Cal Berkeley, but turned down for that. No big surprise there. Wasn't exactly a studious student in high school, but so I started going to American River, and I kind of taken up a hobby of photography while I was in the Army. And especially when we're parachuting, take Instamatics and shoot pictures on the way down. Yeah. And but we so I decided to take it up when I was in school, and I bought a Hasselblad.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, expensive. Not all that reliable, but you know. And I would later buy a 50 millimeter Distagon that had poor lens separation and couldn't give you a sharp picture anywhere. Yeah. So I just think that could get it fixed, but. So I started taking up, learned how to develop film, and the first summer I was out, I went back to work for the Department of Forestry. Second summer out, I worked for a guy named Don Weisskopf. He's a cousin of the golfer Tom Weisskopf.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and he was a teacher in recreation at American River College, and he was doing a book on. I think he was rewriting or doing a second edition of a book on football with Ralston. He was the coach for the Redskins and at Stanford.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so we did that book that summer, and then we did a.
And you did all the photography for it?
No, I only did the printing for that book.
Okay.
But in his second edition of it, I did, because I started shooting a lot of sports stuff for United Press International and the San Mateo Times. And so I, any pictures that I had from that, we went through and looked at and used in the book.
Nice.
And then we did one with Alston, what's the coach for the Dodgers?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and used a lot of my pictures, the baseball that I shot, and then we did one on track and field with Almont. I've been shooting track and field for a number of years. For Track and Field News and Runner's World.
I love track and field. I love going to track meets.
Did you?
It's really fun.
Yeah.
And my brother ran track for El Camino.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I got a picture at a Bruce Chinner meet in the late 70s, second half of the 70s, of Carl Lewis and another guy from University of Texas, El Paso, in a 4x100 meter relay race. And
Go ahead.
anyway, Carl Lewis is running the second leg, and he trips off, and the other guy, the first guy in the leg, runs by him. He has to stop, turn around, and hand it to him. They fumble it, and that's when I got the picture. And the other guy is like this. And best track picture I've ever taken, ever will take. Yeah, it was awesome.
Well, David, we got to wrap this up, but first of all, I just want to thank you for your service
Hey,
and
thank you.
welcome home.
welcome home.
Lord knows you
Yeah.
earned everything that you may get, and I hope you do. But for now, that completes this episode of Valley to Vietnam. Thanks for being here, and we'll be back soon.